We're getting closer to Halloween season, and as it starts to get closer and closer, you know, people start doing their weekend trips to Spirit Halloween. People are getting in the mood to do ghost shit. This is our season. So we thought we'd talk a little bit today about, John, it was your idea. What were we talking about? This is Midwest Ghost Hunters, by the way. It's Dark Matter, our podcast. We were just sitting here chatting about, you know, we've got, you know, a lot of evidence we're going to be playing on the website, on the podcast coming soon from investigations we've done. Good. Were you talking, John, about paranormal things to do locally, or?
Well, I thought about, you know, if you're someone listening to this podcast and you're interested in ghosts and it's close to Halloween, what are things that we would suggest you do to go out and experience this sort of thing? Number one, the first thing I always tell people is if you are really a super fan of ghosts and you're wanting to be involved in that, I think that the ghost tours are the best way to get into that and kind of get your ghost fix. If you're trying to just go out and do a paranormal hunt yourself, I think that's a little different deal. That may actually end up being a bit disappointing. If you were in Southwest Missouri, Pythian Castle, no, we're not hooked onto that, but Pythian Castle does ghost tours here. That would be a great one to come check that out. Missouri State Pen does ghost tours. I think that's another great one here locally. There's a bunch of them in Arkansas with the hotels there. I've never been to those, but I've heard that they're pretty good. But with all of those, you're going to get a real good history that goes along with that. I think that's the sort of thing that if you are a novice and you're wanting to get involved and to do this, I think that's going to be a better experience for you in a night. If you're wanting to be a true paranormal group and go out and do that sort of thing, you're going to have a lot of nights that you come home with absolutely nothing. And so I think that's the better way to go.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to what we talked about a couple of weeks ago. If you're, you know, a bunch of 16-year-olds, it depends on what your goal is. If you're just wanting to go out and get scared, scare yourselves, you know, load the apps, you know, go out to wherever, you're going to find a ghost.
Get a word generator.
Get a ghost radar, get any of that shit, and you know, you're going to find something out there.
Watch a few really scary movies first.
Yeah, for sure. If that's your goal, just to get scared, that's the way to do it. And that's kind of what we said when we were talking about these things. That's what they're for.
And, you know, I mean, I think that if you're wanting to go down the paranormal route and really, truly be a paranormal investigator, I realize that cemeteries are a big, huge, fun area to go to, but minus all the bizarre stuff that we've talked about that happened to us at Mars Hill when we tried to do that, which is a whole podcast in itself. Minus that, you have all sorts of outdoor noises that you're going to have a problem getting rid of. You know, I mean, how do you know that the growl that you heard wasn't really a wolf, particularly if you're in an outlying area, or a dog or something like that? So I think those type of investigations are popular this time of year simply because it's super creepy, and, you know, you can show video, or you can you've got audio of you going through a cemetery. Those kind of things are more difficult because it's an outdoor investigation.
I can't even drive by a cemetery without having like Vietnam style flashbacks of Mars Hill. Yeah, I know we don't want to talk about Mars Hill the whole time.
Even without that, don't you think it would be hard to do an outdoor investigation of a cemetery and eliminate things? And I'm talking about just basic things like the sound of bugs.
Well, the best time to do any outdoor investigation, that's what I was getting ready to say, is if going back just a little bit, if you're just wanting to scare yourselves, you know, it's September, October, we're going to go out and scare ourselves. Go get the ghost apps, go get the word generators, and go do that. That's fun stuff. However, if you're thinking to yourself in September or October, you know what? I'm going to start a paranormal group and we're going to do real investigations and set up a website. Wait till January to do that and see if you still feel that way. But that being said, if you're going to do an outdoor investigation, wintertime's the best time to do it. And it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to do it. But even then, outdoor investigations are a bit of a problem because you have to try to eliminate noises.
I mean, if you listen to our audio that we caught, you know, me and Dustin and Ty, when we went to Mars Hill, however many years ago that was, many. You have to wade through the fucking cicadas and, you know, crickets to hear anything, and frogs and shit. So yeah, as far as outdoor investigation, my advice, if you're just wanting to scare yourself, load the apps and the word generators. That's what they're for. That's specifically what they're for. They're not for, you know, actual investigations where you're trying to help a homeowner or help a business.
And if you are somebody who is just interested in ghosts and you'd like to have a little bit of a feel of the paranormal paranormal hunt type of thing, do a ghost tour somewhere. Pick one of them. Pythian Castle's got a great one that's here. They have a whole crew that does those, that will take you through it. They'll tell you the story. They'll walk through hunts and everything with you. They'll show you the evidence that they've caught. You'll get the experience without having the hours and hours and hours of trying to locate, narrow down, eliminate stuff. You'll get the experience for it. Do that with the state pen has got those. There's some places in Arkansas that have got those. I think those kind of things are the better way to do it. Particularly if you're a novice, if you're somebody who's not wanting to dedicate a whole long time period for it, because if you're really doing true paranormal hunting, it can be incredibly boring. I know that we haven't really talked about 417 magazine yet, and we're not going to dive into that, but that particular night, I spent an entire night over in a section of it, and I didn't say a word and just sat over there. And that's the sort of thing that you got to be willing to do if you're going to be paranormal investigators. And that's not a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, I'll be glad when we can finally get some of that 417 magazine stuff, actually sorted through, and
should be soon,
and played. Yeah, Jamie is going to come on the podcast and talk about that night, kind of his perception of what happened. He's the is journalist the word? I don't want to sound stupid.
Not exactly sure what Jamie's particular job title is.
Well,
there.
He's writing the article.
He's a journalist.
He's right. He's the one. He's the one writing the article.
I think, but he may even have a bigger title than just.
He
a
might
journalist.
also be like an editor. Or something.
That's what I'm saying. Is I don't know the word attached to Jamie.
We'll let him tell us. But he was definitely writing things, and his name's attached to some of the articles. So
I can't wait to get him in here because he's very skeptical. I liked him.
No, he is
and he's from the UK.
He's a very level-headed dude. In fact, he had the same outlook on all of it that I did before we started this whole thing.
Yeah, and I thought he was hilarious because he's kind of dry. He's kind of hard to rattle.
He's going to fit in just fine.
Yeah. So he's going to come on the podcast and talk a little bit about his perception because he hung out with us the whole night. Mm-hmm. And he may bring someone else with him. I don't know if if the other two girls or one of them's coming too. Or not, I have no idea. I said, whoever you want to bring, who you feel can best, sell this issue of your magazine, bring them. But he's coming for sure. I don't know who else he's going to bring along with him. But I am looking forward to getting him in here. I think it's going to be funny as fuck.
He is very skeptical, but also he's just very interested in all of it. He's kind of like me. He just likes reading those stories.
He was telling us about, and I don't want to get too much.
Like he can read a Bigfoot story without leaving the room. Like he likes to listen and hear the stories.
I don't want to tell someone else's.
Fucking give him a name tag then. I'll hit the road.
I don't want to tell stories, other people's stories based on hearsay. But Jamie was telling us a story about. He had some kind of paranormal experience. Remember?
Well, I mean, okay, it was a very strange experience. He was telling us a story of something very strange that happened, but he wasn't ready to attribute it to paranormal.
It was.
He had 2 or 3 other explanations ready to.
That happened when he was here in Springfield too. Okay, I remember that. We'll let him talk about any of that stuff he wants to. But he's going to be coming on the podcast. I think it's going to be fun to get him in here. I thought his sense of humor was pretty fun.
He enjoyed our Mars Hill story too, more than
who the fuck doesn't enjoy a good hillbilly story?
Well, especially if you're from the UK,
right?
Like that's got to be knee slapping hilarity. Like if you're from a different continent, listening to us talk about these
classic
country
Americans.
bumpkins.
Yeah. If you were somebody, if somebody said, "Hey, I'm interested in paranormal stuff," what would you tell them to do? As far as where would be a good place to go, what would you tell them to do?
People who are interested in the paranormal, is that what, just like a person?
Right. If
I see
somebody's
those all
a fan
the
of
time.
them.
I mean, most of the people listening.
You deal with it all the time.
Yeah, most of the people listening to this podcast fall into that category. And I think they get their fix, through stuff like this, through the podcast, through TV shows, all that shit. Only a few head out on their own.
I'm still of the belief that there are people that experience things they can't understand more. It's more common than we think.
Yeah.
So if we went off on the street and asked people, hey, do you know anybody who claims they have something paranormal happening in their house? I'd be willing to bet 2 out of 10 would probably say yes.
I would say way more than that.
And so if you know those 2 people, and if you're interested in the paranormal, ask them if you can go to their house for a night and set up some recorders.
I'm constantly running into people who are just learning, that I've known forever, that I work with or whatever, that are just learning about our podcast. And these people, you would never imagine in a million years that these particular people, these personalities, would have stories of haunted shit, but they all do. 2 out of 10 seems way low to me. I would say 8 or 9.
Oh, for sure. So I used to work at a school, and a bunch of the teachers finally heard that I was a part of this podcast. And
how'd that go?
When that started to spread, they would come in my room, 2 or 3 people a week, and just want to hear things that I have.
Yeah, that happens to me too.
Things that have happened, because it's an interesting topic, right? People like to hear these things. And it was amazing how many of them said, well, you know,
all of them.
My somebody had this happen that was strange, or I've heard this is my story. And they were all just like, well, it's like they wouldn't have been willing to share those stories unless they knew that I was on a paranormal podcast.
Right. Is there one of them that you thought, what's the best story someone's ever shared with you about that you can remember?
Was it about like the place that I worked, or just any
of them? What would you say is probably the best story that you didn't experience yourself, but you were told?
Commonalities, right? Like, it's stuff that we've all experienced, hearing whispers and voices, and you know, none of that was caught on audio. They weren't investigators. It's just something that they experienced. But I had one lady that told me that, like, in her grandmother's house, she saw this shadow thing materialize in the corner. She was woken up from a deep sleep, saw this thing, and then the rest of the night she heard like knocking and banging on the walls around her. We hear that all the time. Yeah. But to them, that's like world shattering.
Oh, fuck yeah. And some of the best stories that I heard from a situation just like you're saying, from someone who learned about the podcast and came down talking about it, was from a nurse who worked at the hospital. And I can't pretend to remember any specific stories she told, but she had a bunch, and she said they all do.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's more common than it's like pilots seeing UFOs.
Right.
We'll never know how common that is.
Now, my question for you is, as a teacher at that time, and then the word started to spread that you're on this paranormal podcast, did that leak into the student body at all?
No, I never had any kids come up and ask me. I did have kids ask me before, just randomly, do you believe in ghosts and stuff? Usually around Halloween, right?
Yeah.
I've had, because I taught middle school, and like usually around Halloween. And well, I told them, I was like, well, you know, I mean, I think strange things could happen, but we need evidence of it, right?
You start talking to them about interdimensional beings.
Daddy, my teacher told me ghosts are real.
I mean, look, like,
you gotta be careful.
You do have to be careful. I mean, I've been in hot water before from teachers around here because I covered the Greek gods.
Yeah,
and,
I know.
And they were ready to chase me out of town with pitchforks. So you do have to be careful. But at the same time, like, I would just tell them, like, you know, there's things that are strange that you need evidence. You need evidence to be able to make any kind of actual.
I did have a very short-lived conversation in the same vein of what you're talking about, where people, you know, start talking, getting upset or whatever, you know, talking about paranormal. Where the person I was talking to was 100,000% sold that what we're talking to isn't ghosts.
Oh yeah.
What did they think it was?
We're being lured by demons.
Yes.
And may already be infected.
Bobby has a story like this. She worked with a lady one time that was very religious. I don't know what religion it was. It was some form of Christianity. And she told her that that's what we did. And she found out that we were going to other people's houses and trying to contact the other side. Yeah. And then, like, she became, like, scared of her.
Became scared of
Bobby?
who?
Bobby didn't want to be around her.
Yeah,
because
you're a pariah.
Because we're talking to demons.
You've worked in healthcare for a long time. What are some stories? People have to have told you stories when they found out what you do and you were investigating. What's some of the best stories that you've heard from the not necessarily that you experienced yourself?
There's more than one where, like, nurses and CNAs will hear things like see and hear doors slamming, and in a place where people go to die.
Right.
I mean, you're probably going to hear.
I've heard lots of stories,
and I heard one from a physician.
Facility.
Okay, what's the story?
One from a physician. I'm not going to tell his name because that wouldn't be cool. But he developed sleep paralysis-like symptoms after a sighting while driving alone in a rural highway at night, going like between here and Kansas City. Saw something.
I remember
in the road.
talking about that.
Not kind of akin to the Hat guy.
Yeah.
With the Willard people.
Okay.
But
Or
different.
Mothman.
This one was like more of a Slender Man type thing.
Okay.
Did you say he was bullshit and make fun of him?
Anyway, so he saw this thing and then started developing sleep paralysis like symptoms, but it only lasted for like a month and then everything went away. A place I worked had a man come into the building looking for his ex-girlfriend or his then girlfriend, and they were in the middle of a bad breakup and they had a kid together and it was really messy. The dude came to the building looking for her and was going to try and kill her because he had a gun. He was looking all through the building for her and couldn't find her because the people that worked there took her and hid her away, so he couldn't find her. And when he couldn't find her, he went to the nurse's station and blew his head off.
That happened. That did happen. In that same vein, just another medical facility here in town, they had, it's a building that has so much. I know the rehab person there, and she has shared stories from, aides and nurses that work there. They've got tons of stories, and this building is old as fuck. And this is the kind of stuff that happens there, except it happens quite a bit. They had a patient there who, they constantly have a problem with people passing drugs through the windows.
Yep.
And at some point, someone passed a gun through the window, and one of their patients shot themselves in the head in the bed with a roommate, patient laying there too. Old building. It's got lots of, it's got lots of clientele, in the same way that you were talking about, like the guy who's, I was thinking he shot someone else too.
No, he popped some shots off.
Oh, and he didn't get anybody.
He wasn't even trying to get anybody. He was trying to kill her.
Did he kill himself or just shoot himself?
No, he killed himself.
Oh,
he shot
he?
himself
Okay.
in the head.
I couldn't remember the full story.
That's super terrifying.
I had therapists come in and say, "Oh, I remember some stories from this place," and then they all make the gun.
Yeah.
Hand signal.
That was all over. Yeah.
How about a non-murder story? I mean, do you have a
The hospital's full of them. The hospital is full of them. Now, I can't sit here and say they're all true or they weren't, a mistaken, reflection in a window or who knows what.
I had a nurse tell me once that she worked in a hospital, and she said that, or it wasn't a hospital. She worked in a care facility, or like an old person's home.
Right. Skilled nursing facility. Yeah.
Nursing homes is what I was.
Yeah,
saying.
that works too.
Anyway, she was working at this nursing home, and this old woman who was, getting very old and very frail and kind of slipping, would always talk about her husband visiting her. And her husband died 20 years ago, right? Which is pretty common. Older people that are close to the end.
Sure.
Will sometimes say they see their spouse who had died God knows how long ago, right? That part's not too creepy. In this particular case, the creepy part was this old woman's name was the dead husband's name. I don't remember what it was. Let's just say it was like Roger, right? She said, oh, yeah, she'd always talk about Rogers, came to visit her today. This woman never left her room. She was very close to death, basically hospice, right? Somebody down the hall who had no contact with this other old woman, one night woke up screaming and hit the nurse call button. And this nurse walked in, said, what's going on? What's wrong? And this person wasn't as close to the end, was still very lucid, was still very much had their wits about them. Said, this guy keeps walking out of the closet and talking to me, and then he just goes back in. Like, who is it? Please check. And of course, like, okay, they check. Nobody's there. She's like, oh, it was just a dream. She's like, no, it wasn't a dream. Like, he talked to me. Like, he told me what his name was his name. Roger. Just happened to be the same name as this.
I've heard so many of those. I've heard tons of them. I can't even remember them.
I've got one from work. It's getting later in the evening, 5 or 6 o'clock, I think, is what they said. I wasn't there yet. This happened before I ever got there, but they told me about it once they found out that I did all this stuff. And they said that it was two of them that share an office space, and they were coming out of their room, out of their office to do something down the hallway, some kind of meeting or something. I don't know. But they were walking down the hallway, and they see a large man wearing all black walking down the hall, and then he turns and goes into a room. And at these places, you kind of have to, you want to know who's coming and going, really, because some of these people have family members that they don't want to be in contact with anymore, either due to some sort of abuse or what have you.
And there are visiting hours.
There are visiting hours, and like 6 to 7 p.m. is getting a little late.
Sign this updated will, grandma type stuff.
Right. So that happens a lot.
This big dude wearing all black turns into a room. So they walk down to the room just to peek their heads in and see who just came in. They peek their heads in, and nobody is in that room. Stuff like that.
Yeah, this is the... Yeah.
I have...
Where the police come? Is this the one where the police come, or is this a different one?
This is a different one.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of the one.
I'm thinking of the one we talked about not too long ago.
Right. Yeah. Same person told me this. This was during the period of time where people were coming into my room at work and sharing their stories. Now that they feel comfortable knowing that
You just have a line out the door.
Pretty much. There for a few weeks. Once this all started spreading, it was like that. It was very
people find out that someone...
it's like... Yeah. It's almost like they were dying to tell someone.
Once they find out there's someone, like when they find out we do a podcast or investigations, whatever, they will just fucking... Yeah, they really almost do line
just
up.
Open up.
Yeah.
Because they're either embarrassed or scared to say this in their professional lives to anyone else.
I've had that too.
But this same person was telling me she was working one night, saw a guy walk in to this... I think this was at a hospital. Guy walk in, also wearing all black. It's funny how that's always common. And she said she witnessed this guy walk down the hall, turn the corner, disappear. The problem was it was a dead-end hall, and this guy just walked into a wall and was gone.
Is this the one? Or is this a different one?
No.
Okay, there's some commonalities.
None of these are the one.
There's some commonalities here.
The one that you're thinking of was even more terrifying, in my opinion.
The police came to that one
because of, and not only that, but because of the attire that
the black robes,
the robes.
Okay, for anybody that this is their first podcast, they've never listened to us before, walk us through that.
A nurse was at a nursing home, more than one nurse. It was like multiple nurses at the nurses station, which was right by the entrance to this place. Door opened, multiple hooded, dressed in black robes, glided in, didn't make eye contact, didn't say hi, didn't say a word, walked down the hall, all entered this one room. They weren't there. The police were called and they weren't there. This is the one. Yes, the one that you've been referring to.
That nurse's desk was circular.
Yeah.
And I remember this detail. They walked around the nurse's station.
They walked around. Here's the detail that I remember. They did walk around the nurse's station, but I remember the leaves blowing up against the door.
I was going to talk about the leaves.
Yeah.
The leaves.
So the door had not, the front door had, it was in I assume in winter, fall. The wind had blown a bunch of leaves were up against the front door. And anytime someone would come in, the door pushed the leaves out of the way.
The door didn't open. They just appeared.
Right. The leaves hadn't been moved. That's why the police were trying to find an alternate entry. So yeah, that story came from a very credible source.
And didn't the person, the room they entered, didn't that person shortly thereafter die?
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. That's logical that happened next, and I'm sure they eventually did.
I can't remember if I'm attaching that or if I'm getting stories mixed up because they're all so similar.
That may be us adding shit that didn't happen. I don't know. But up to that point, that is what happened. That's what was observed.
Yeah, by multiple people. And the cops came and found no evidence of any of it.
Some of your best stories are going to come from nurses. I've heard some shit out of out of the hospitals, the local hospitals. And I can't sit here and then retell one of them. But I just remember, nurses telling me stories, and I was like, oh my God.
I mean, this nurse that I talked to had it was just like one story after another. I think I told 2 or 3. They all came from the same person.
Yeah.
So again, you got to wonder how common it really is.
And the black robes just makes it so fucking
robes
menacing.
makes it so creepy.
Do these stories normally then have someone that passes on or just recently has passed on? Is that normally the case?
There's some that share a lot of commonalities. Like between different places, you'll hear of these people that see the little girl. There's a little girl wearing all white, and she's sitting right there.
Yes, there. Yes,
and that's my cue to leave.
When you said the little girl, I was immediately, for whatever reason, thought of another facility with the bloody face guy.
The ones with the little girl, though, I've heard this in 3 or 4 different buildings 50 miles apart from each other, but they'll all see, before a person passes away, they'll see a little girl wearing all white, like period clothing, like early 1900s sundress type thing, and then the next day dead. I've experienced
Wasn't that the same place as or is that the what you're talking about? Is there was a commonality? Because that also happened at the bloody face guy.
That happens at a bunch of different places. The bloody face guy they would see out at another rural place facility.
And the freaky thing about that was he was outside the window.
Outside the window.
Looking in.
And this happened to someone close to us.
Yeah, I know.
Where they looked out the window and saw a man standing outside the window with a bloody face.
And some of these patients,
the red-faced man.
Some of these patients were room bound. They didn't get out and intermingle and tell stories with the rest of the.
That's not nice.
No, they couldn't. They're bed bound.
The old woman. The part that made that story about the dead husband so compelling is that she didn't mingle, like she was dying. She was bedbound.
So you have 3 or 4 different people that can't leave their bed, that physically cannot leave their bed because they're so close to the end, saying that they all saw the exact same thing outside their window.
Yeah.
That's
weird.
I know a nurse who listens to this podcast every week, Stephanie, who said she would love to come on sometime and tell some nurses' stories.
I would love that.
We've just never set it up. So, Stephanie, we need to set that up. I don't work with her anymore, but I did for a while, and she's told some really good ones.
I think that we need to do that.
So we can set that up with Nurse Stephanie soon. But I've heard it from lots of other, not even all nurses, some nurses' aides. They have some amazing fucking stories.
Hospitals and nursing homes and hospice care facilities.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I'll tell you, I know for a fact, for whatever reason, schools.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't know why that is. That makes no sense.
And I can tell you, as I've been a teacher I was a teacher for like 8 or 9 years, 7 or 8 years, whatever. they're creepy places to be because you're alone in a building you're not supposed to be alone in.
Here's a guarantee.
Usually there's supposed to be people around.
He's
you.
talking about being there after hours.
After hours,
Right.
10, 11 o'clock at night, grading, getting things ready. And I've heard things. I told you guys about one time. And that we've been on investigations where we've literally been told to leave by a voice that's not there. I was never as scared as I was alone.
Yeah, I remember you talking about like stuff crashing,
Just
and
noises,
giggling
man.
or something.
It's so I get the hair stands up thinking about it because I was terrified. I almost called one of you just so I could say I might not make it.
I was going to say, you told us very shortly thereafter that had happened.
Oh, it was fucking terrifying.
Here's a guarantee I can make to everybody at this table and every ear on this podcast. When I die, I am not going back to motherfucking high school.
God.
It's very strange, isn't it?
I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
Very
I
strange.
would go on a
Given a
beach.
choice.
But okay, so I think I've said this a long time ago, but I talked to maintenance people. Janitors, janitorial staff people who are oftentimes
reminds me of and we need to lump them in with the nurses and nurses' aides. Janitors have some killer fucking stories.
they're there overnight, every night. And I remember one guy who I trust, and I believe he was telling me the truth. The basketball bouncing in the gym. I would trust that guy with my life, and he was a very gruff, tough guy, and I believe what he was telling me. And he said he heard noises and went to investigate and saw just a fucking basketball bouncing by itself in the gym. And it wasn't like it was actively bouncing. The ball was bouncing and then it would slowly die
That's
off.
an awesome visual.
Yeah, and imagine it in a completely dark gym. And he'd also, he would tell me about footsteps, high heels walking up and down the hall, like a teacher or an admin that's not there.
We heard that. We heard that.
We
in
did hear
school.
that at that same place.
Yeah.
And I've recently got a new job. I'm working in a completely different district now, and I drove my car with the sticker on the back a couple weeks ago.
Now you got a new line
which
of people.
opened a little bit of a floodgate. Not as much yet
Yeah.
because I'm not as I haven't been there as long.
People will literally
But
at stoplights
I've-
ask you to roll your window down if they see that shit.
I had a couple of janitorial people come in at that a few days after I drove that car with that sticker with the Midwest Ghost Hunters sticker that started telling me stories about my new district. And it's very funny how a lot of those stories are very similar. Footsteps, giggling, noises in a completely empty building.
Your old school, well, hell, I guess part of it's pretty old too. I was going to say the school you're currently at, part of it is really old.
Oh, it's ancient. Yeah, it's really old. Older than I thought it was.
How old is that?
Like 1920s or 30s.
Oh my God. Now you're talking probably about the Big Brick Rock Gym, right?
Big brick.
Because I think it has the date on a
Yeah, it
on a
was
brick.
part of the
Well,
WPA.
the rest of the school is connected to that.
Yeah.
It was
like
part of the WPA because my great grandfather built that gym.
The rest of the school is it's all one thing. They're not separate buildings. The whole district's together.
It's all hooked together.
And it's a very old building, and there's lots of stories there as well of very similar things, just noises, voices, giggling, kids.
I would almost bump janitors up a couple notches.
Oh, you've got
Because they're there
are some-
alone,
Right, yeah.
Usually overnight when there's nobody there, and they know what the atmospheric sounds there usually are. Janitors hear shit.
I gotta tell
and
you,
see
if I
shit.
was I have never pretended to be some kind of big tough like.
Fuck no.
If I'm in a school overnight alone, completely dark, I'm the only one there, and I hear a fucking little giggle from a kid, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm not
Fuck
sticking around and getting out my recorder and my temperature gun. And
It's completely different when you're all alone.
yeah, it is.
It's a whole different ball game when you're by yourself, regardless of whether you're a fucking paranormal investigator or not.
Yeah, when I'm
that
with
has
you-
nothing to do with it.
When I'm with you guys and I hear something, it creeps me out a little bit, but there's a little bit of strength in numbers.
Yeah,
type
when
thing.
we're all together and I hear something, even something scary as fuck, you immediately start migrating into a clump.
Yeah, you kind of do the back-to-back thing.
Yeah.
Back-to-back, and you're all going in a circle so you can see everything.
I would love to do like a call to action type thing because I can talk to Stephanie about telling some of her nurse stories. But a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about one of my favorite ghost shows to watch is Paranormal 911. It's policemen, firemen, EMTs. I would also like to roll nurses, and janitors especially.
Yeah.
If any of you guys listening are in any of these professions and you've had, paranormal experiences, you don't even have to say your name. You can be completely anonymous if you want. We'll do it right over the phone. If you want to tell any of your stories, this is the perfect time of year to tell them. People are all into the ghost stories right now, and the real ones are the best. So if anybody's got any stories, contact us through email. Just go to contact@mwghosthunters.com and say, hey, I got a story I'd like to tell on your podcast, and we'll set that up because I love hearing these. That's some of my favorite podcasts other than the funny shit. I always like the funny shit because like I've said before, we're all 12 years old basically. But some of my favorite podcasts are when people come on and tell their stories.
I like those too.
Like the lady who was, talking about they found a fucking murderer's journal. Remember?
Yeah.
I mean, that shit's...
I actually think that was probably more interesting than the paranormal stuff she had.
That was fucking nuts. That's when we tiptoed a little into being a crime podcast for one 15-minute period.
We didn't solve a mystery.
I want to remind people, no, we didn't. I want to remind people listening, if you've got a story, and it doesn't have to be a first-hand account either. We just love to hear them. And I know, anybody who's clicking on a paranormal podcast, in the genre, they're going to like to hear them too. So you can just get a hold of us, contact at mwghosthunters.com. Email us. Just tell us you got a story you'd like to tell, and we'll set that up. If anybody's got a ghost story, this is the time of year to do that. If you've got a paranormal story, and we're specific, not specifically, but I want to highlight janitors, nurses, any kind of occupational thing like that, let us know. We'll get you on the podcast. We'll tell those stories.
I never did get to the story about the new place that I...
Oh, well, yeah, go to that.
Let's hear it. Let's hear your story.
This janitor was talking to me about what she had seen. And it was, I never heard anything like this before. It was more poltergeisty. And I like poltergeisty stuff. She said that one night she heard noises, wasn't sure what she heard, went to investigate. It was in a bathroom. And she walked in. This is so fucking weird. You know, like the toilet paper dispenser thing, the rolls? She said she walked in and every stall had all the toilet paper unrolled just in a pile on the floor.
That's like poltergeist.
That's what I said. Yeah. And that's my favorite shit. I don't know if I've ever said that before. One of my favorite stories ever that I ever heard this was online, not someone I know, was this person who worked in a nursing home and walked in and the kitchen, the kitchen staff wasn't there yet, but they heard like one loud bang from the kitchen, like somebody was in there. So they went to investigate. And what they saw when they walked in was all of the shit, all of the stuff in the kitchen was stacked to the ceiling.
That's pretty awesome.
That's fucking crazy. Like, can you imagine witnessing that? Because how does that not make noise?
That's straight out of Ghostbusters.
How does that not make any noise? They said they heard one bang and they walked in and everything stacked to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, this weird, the toilet paper just like unrolled itself.
Well, if you remember on the movie Poltergeist, remember that's one of the famous scenes, the little kid playing in the kitchen floor, the camera pans, everything's normal. It pans back like 1 second later and all the chairs are stacked
That's
up.
right. Yeah, that kind of stuff. That's my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that's so creepy to me.
Yeah.
And they also said the faucets would turn on. They said the many times they get here in the morning.
At your current place?
Yes. They said many times they'll get here in the morning and a faucet will be on. So which means it had to have been either left on and running all night, which is doubtful because one of them would have heard it and noticed it.
Right.
Or it just turned on its own.
The faucet thing has been a problem with that school for a long time. Years and years and years ago, the janitors would come in looking for people and made a big deal about make sure you turn the faucets off whenever you're on. Now, in all fairness, elementary school, they could have left them on. It could have been. But I remember that being an issue years ago.
The fascinating thing about it happening now, as opposed to, years ago or when it was built in 1920 or whatever, is that now every single inch of that place is covered by security cameras.
What is it with running water and ghosts?
I don't know. I guess it's an easy way to get attention. I have no idea. That happens. I mean, that seems to happen a lot.
Do you remember the tanning bed story with the running water?
No, I don't. Tanning bed?
Someone, again, close to us, was tanning in a tanning bed, and she was playing this instrumental music track that's kind of like new agey.
I remember this.
It was called, the group was called Pure Moods.
Pure Moods.
I remember seeing Pure Moods advertised at 1 a.m.
Remember the blue disc?
Yeah.
I remember.
So they had a Pure Moods. It wasn't a disc though. It was a tape. It was a cassette tape.
Which was back in the 90s.
Pure Moods. They had it in the boombox next to the tanning bed, and a song came up that included running water as part of the ambience. The songs kept stopping. Like the boombox, the cassette would stop
Which you had to press like this plastic button at the top.
Yeah, this rewind, stop.
For people that don't know how cassettes worked, you had to like press this big...
press a physical plastic button in to get it to stop and or play. So song starts and the cassette stops. And so she reaches her hand out of the tanning bed and presses play, and it keeps going for a couple seconds, stops. Does it again, stops, does it again, stops. Eventually she gets pissed off about it because she wants to hear Pure Moods, presses the play button and holds it down, and then the play button is forced back up and it stops the tape again. To which this person made a quick exit from the tanning bed.
I know this person, right?
Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Very well.
This was at a house that had a lot of stuff happen in it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you've got a hankering for Pure Moods, there's really nothing going to get in the way.
No.
Not even a ghost. Pure Moods was like Enigma type stuff, right?
Enya, Enigma, all those really spiritual sounding, relaxing.
Yanni.
I vaguely remember that. But your original
that place would have faucets turn on too, and
clock pendulums.
That was the original question: is what's the deal with faucets? And I don't know the answer to that. That was one of the claims, though, at a recent investigation we did of the water coming on.
It's weird, things like that, like the running water, and then seeing the same thing between different people. The red-faced man, the little girl in white,
especially old people with dementia. They can't, especially the ones that are like bound to their room. They can't get out and intermingle. They're not sharing stories.
They didn't get up and email the person 3 states over and talk about the red face.
That's really weird that a person who's never left the bed, can tell the same story as another person on a different wing of the facility that's that specific. But I am with you. I do love the poltergeist stuff. What I find less interesting is trying to figure out who the ghost is. For whatever reason, I don't find that super interesting.
No, I mean, because
it's kind of like you said on the last podcast. It's not trying to figure out what the ghost said. It's that it's fucking there at all.
Right.
I mean, it's that you hear a voice, not what's said.
I don't care I don't care if his name is George, Bob, Bill, or Mr. Kusich. Like, I don't care. The fact that it's whispering in an empty room, that's the interesting part to me.
We've got, speaking of, when you said Mr. Kusich, I thought of Dr. Bartlett. Remember the portly gentleman?
The portly gentleman, yeah, I do.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was on a couple podcasts ago. We were talking about the 417 Tap House, which is investigation evidence that we're going to be bringing into this podcast. We're not going to get too deep into that at the moment. I've been looking up about Dr. Bartlett, who owned the building 417 Tap House is in. I can't find a whole lot, but I did confirm that he did own that building 100%.
So he existed.
And there was a picture, and he was a fat dude.
He's not. He's portly.
Jovial.
He's a portly gentleman.
We mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, and then we've kind of not mentioned it again. We're going to be bringing some stuff in, from that investigation here coming up pretty soon. We've got a lot of stuff we're going to be bringing in, and a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about.
You guys want to go back to Mars Hill?
Really? Are you serious?
Part of me is being serious, and only because it was. I almost said
was
fun.
It fun?
I almost said fun. That's the wrong word. It was. It was entertaining.
It was entertaining.
It'd be a mistake going back there. The first time felt like a warning.
We'd have to go back there in like November if we went back.
I thought I told y'all. Get the fuck out of here.
What I think you would do if you really wanted to do this, a safer way to do that would be to go in, put up a bunch of recorders, and leave, and then come back and get those recorders. You could do that.
That'd be a way. We wouldn't have any good stories.
That was so surreal. That experience was so fucking weird.
I know. We started this podcast, and I said I wasn't going to talk much about it, but I wasn't joking when I can't pass a cemetery without. When I was walking up, let me be clear real quick about something.
Funniest fucking thing.
First of all, I don't appreciate being the only one walking up to that car.
Well, shit,
yeah,
man.
you had the worst experience.
It was
Somebody had to.
Nobody had to.
What do you mean? They were blocking our exit.
Yeah, we kind of couldn't leave.
Somebody had to. And no one at this table. I had to. There was no other way. And I remember walking up there, and in my head, I'm not shitting you. In my head, the thing that's going through my head is, I could die here.
I literally remember standing there with Tyler and Hunter.
I remember getting chased down that dirt road,
wrapping wires around your arm.
Yeah,
but I was
at
standing there
breakneck
with
speed,
you two guys,
by the way.
And I remember having the thought of, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how this ends.
I remember thinking there's no way in hell I can get out of here because I had so much equipment everywhere that there's just, these guys can disappear. But if I'm going to try to get any equipment at all, it's not happening.
It was like a movie because picture a redneck.
Done. Easy.
In a truck, right? And then we're on the
Also
passenger
easy.
side of the truck. And then we're in the middle of nowhere. So the sky is completely black outside, and you can see all the stars. The Milky Way is perfectly visible, and then in the background you see a Starlink launch happening.
Yep.
And then this redneck we're talking to, we point that out to kind of disarm him a little bit, and he didn't even fucking
I did every trick in the book that I had to try to disarm this guy.
Oh, and he seemed like he didn't like you very much.
I remember
because I took his daughter to prom,
And apparently it was not a good prom.
which did not happen, by the way.
I just remember standing there, not necessarily in the mode of chickening out from confronting them, just sitting there. I remember standing there thinking the actual thought of, I don't know how this goes from here.
Well, one of the ways
I don't know what to do next.
One of the ways it goes is you see my fucking head get blown into 15 different
We're all
pieces.
looking up at Starlink.
That's one of the ways it could have gone.
We're all looking up at Starlink. There's a muzzle flash from the bottom of our vision.
And now Dustin's head is here and there and back there. That's what I was picturing.
Well, I wasn't.
Because
I didn't
look,
know-
okay, let me just say, for the people listening that have no fucking clue what we're talking about, we were at Mars Hill, an investigation,
It's
right?
a cemetery. It's a
A
cemetery.
cemetery in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, there's nothing out there.
And what happened? A bunch of guys.
nowhere.
A bunch of guys showed up.
Well,
to see what
here,
was
hang
happening.
on a second. Hang on. A bunch of guys didn't just show up. I fucked up.
Yeah,
I
Chris
fucked
fucked
up.
up.
I
Chris
sent
fucked
up the
up big.
beacon.
You
Because
did.
I did not
Bat signaled
have
them.
I thought for whatever fucking reason that was the moment to take a goddamn picture.
Well, we had
And I did not have my flash disabled.
I was saying, kill the lights, kill the lights, kill the lights, because I saw the car coming.
every time a car passed, we would have to kill our flashlights.
Well, we did
every
that
time.
We did that just to be extra safe. We don't want people fucking with us. Just move on. Once you're past, we'll safely continue what we're doing. But for whatever reason, my phone, when I took the picture, it took forever for the mother. It was doing this dark, nighttime photography thing where it was taking forever to. And then the flash didn't go off until this fucking car went by. So that's why they stopped.
So let me just visualize this for people. The car, the flash happens. The car slows down. I see it. I see brake lights pop up.
Yeah.
And I remember at that point, I'm like, oh, fuck. I immediately start getting nervous.
Yeah, I
about
remember
this.
getting scared and pointing
and then
that out.
It eventually circles back around and enters the cemetery. Now, the cemetery had one way in.
only
One way in.
One way little dirt road you could drive your car in. It came in.
I'm pretty sure he
Okay.
reversed all the way back
And
to it.
He did. He backed up.
He came in and started driving down the cemetery path, which at that point we're all scattered around everywhere. Like we're not all in one group at this point. I think we're scattered around.
Me, Chris,
it-
and Tyler were together. I don't know where you two were.
It starts driving slowly. And does he make one whole round?
He does, because us three were like on the dirt path in front of him.
Well,
running
another-
away.
Two cars.
Another vehicle shows up and blocks the exit of the cemetery.
This is why I said don't do outdoor investigations at cemeteries.
He blocks the exit. We are now stuck. If we're leaving on foot until those fuckers leave. We cannot get in our vehicles and drive off.
I would recommend not
Disagree.
doing this again. I would not, because I think you're just begging for problems out there.
I think we
now,
could do it
I
again.
asked that man, by the way, if you want to picture what this guy looked like, if you've seen Deliverance or The Hills Have Eyes, you're on the right track.
Oh, God.
And this man in this car,
I didn't see the guy because I didn't approach the vehicle.
No, me
I
neither.
wouldn't recommend anybody doing an
I asked him-
investigation.
Do you remember the kid playing the banjo in Deliverance?
Yeah.
He looked like an adult version of the kid.
Oh, did you see him?
I will say the only person who eventually got the balls to come up and make sure I wasn't being held at gunpoint was Tyler.
I was behind you.
When?
I
wouldn't
came
go.
walking up behind you because I was standing behind you when that guy said, "You my daughter to prom," because I told you the other Dusty that I said I think this is.
Okay.
And that's whenever you
maybe
did.
that's true.
You mentioned the
Starlink?
You mentioned the Starlink, and he's like, didn't say it. I mean, he didn't even look.
I'm going to say I didn't get within 100 feet of that guy because I didn't want to fucking die.
I'll
good.
say in my defense here, this was my second investigation, I think, ever.
So-
and I thought this may have happened before, so I was going to let the professionals handle this.
Well,
And we did.
But we handled it.
I asked this man because that other car blocks our exit, and I asked him, I was like, "Do you know that guy?" And I told him, I was like, look, I said, we're just doing this thing for YouTube. I said YouTube because
you said that
even
we were
country
YouTubers.
bumpkins know what YouTube is.
Right. Yeah.
If I said podcast, he'd be,
somehow
what in the
you gotta-
hell is...
Even they can look up on YouTube how to wipe their ass.
Right. So I said YouTube, and he wasn't impressed. And then I said, do you know this guy? And I pointed to the guy in the truck. And he told me, no.
Yep.
No, I do not know who that is.
You want to say why that was a lie?
Well,
I think he's getting there.
That's what I'm going to get to. He eventually says some bullshit about how like people come and fuck around in the cemetery, and he was just making sure everything was fine. He was the local sheriff, you see, and he was just making sure everything was okay. He wasn't really the local sheriff, by the way.
Nope.
And
Local overalls, law enforcement.
eventually they make their rounds and they do leave, but they do not go far because they go to an adjacent road, pull up next to each other, and then stick their hands out of the car and do like hillbilly military signals to each other. Like you know what I mean by military signals, right?
Yeah,
like you take the point, I'll circle around back, and like weird military shit. At this point, we are all fucking leaving. We are scattered around, trying to get equipment as best we can. Chris drop kicks a tombstone.
At one point, I don't know how this series of events lined out. I'm fuzzy on the timeline, but I was running, and Hunter was with me, and then Chris was up next to me, and then we're all in a line, and we're slowly speeding up, and then I hear Chris say, "Where are you going? Where are you running? Where are you running?"
I do remember that. Yeah.
I think this was when the truck was behind us.
And then I hear,
yep.
and then it's just me and Hunter.
Yeah.
And I look back, and Chris is doing the Family Guy thing where he's holding his knee.
Going,
I dropped everything in my fucking hand too.
I do think though that this is. I think that the part of the reason why that I don't recommend cemeteries. One, this big huge experience, but number two, when you go out in these rural areas, there are people that are going to somewhat patrol those to look for vandals, to look for things, because things do happen in these rural areas where people knock over tombstones. They will vandalize cemeteries. So
I still think everything that guy told me was a lie. I don't think he was there looking out for the goodness of the public.
The
I don't know
security
what.
camera on the building had a snipped wire, didn't it? Like
Yeah.
a exposed wire that you could tell was split in two.
It could be, but I'm talking about just in general. I think that you run the risk of getting the locals all riled up.
We are the fucking locals.
You are, but he didn't know that.
He's more local.
He's a lot more local than you are out there.
Here's what we do next time. We can go out again. We take one car and we take the car into the cemetery. No fucking lights.
Well, I see. That's what we did. That's what we did before.
Yeah.
When we were there, and I thought about that this time. But then, if someone catches a glimpse, at that point, you're hiding. I thought it'd be better to park in the parking lot. Turned out that was wrong.
I think the better idea is to go in and put recorders out there and leave, and then come back and get the recorders.
And I feel like another thing with cemeteries is you have to remember so well where you put stuff. You can't just be like, oh, it's in Gravestone Row 7.
in some pretty dangerous spots.
Well, yeah.
That was, I would classify that as dangerous.
That was my, I want to point out, second investigation I've ever done. And that was like the most scared I've ever been in my life.
We've been downtown 11, 12 at night.
Yeah.
Gunshots cracking out in the air.
I've got an email from a listener, but I think she's going to come on the podcast and tell her story. I was going to read it, but I don't think I will. I think I'm going to save it and see if she'll come in and talk about it herself. She's the one I sent. I sent that to you guys earlier.
Right.
And also, one more time before we go, if you have any paranormal stories you want to tell, let us know. We'll let you come on the podcast and tell those. We're very interested to hear them. We like to hear them. Just get a hold of us by emailing contact@mwghosthunters.com.
Any weird story. Doesn't have to be ghosts.
Anything, yeah. But I mean, this time of year, it's probably going to be ghosts.
Probably.
Anything you got, let us know. Contact@mwghosthunters.com.
More Dark Matter next week from Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri with Midwest Ghost Hunters.